So this is just, I don't want to pretend this is the end of it. This is, I'm just trying to say this is the beginning. Other reforms that have been delivered, there's the passage of the Fazance Act Amendment Bill, which is now the Act, in 2010, October 2010. That basically brought the MRLs, or maximum residue limits, established by the APVMA and Fazance into closer alignment, down from 18 months to 4 months. Now I emphasise 4 months is a maximum now, and it's only there because we're having to abide by our WTO obligations, when we establish an MRL, we're meant to advise and provide some time for our trading partners to comment on that MRL. In cases where that MRL is already established through Codex, we can opt out of that notification process and reduce that 4 months down to a much lower amount of time. Primary Industries Ministerial Council has signed off on a reduced regulatory approach for on-farm dairy cleansers. There was the development of a labelling reform package by the APVMA, and this was supported by the amendment bill I talked about earlier to the AgVet Code. We've moved forward with excluding certain products from the National Registration Scheme and working with Departments of Health, Commonwealth and State on the exclusion of certain water sanitisers. And there's also been the development of a regulatory process for low-risk AgVet chemicals. So a lot has happened and a lot more to go yet though. Leads me into the next point, where to from here? Well, we're developing a single national regulatory framework for AgVet chemicals, as I said before, and we're progressing with the federal government's better regulation chemical reform agenda. Both of these agendas I should emphasise are closely linked and complementary. The COAG Single National Framework, we're very close, and industry stakeholders would say this. We've said this before, but we're very close to getting a consultation RIS out, and we hope to do that very soon. It's an important milestone. It really will set out the regulatory options that we've got in mind for this comprehensive reform. It's a very broad-ranging reform. It's involved a lot of dialogue, both with stakeholders but also between Commonwealth and state jurisdictions. We're looking at canvassing options around national versus state control of what we call control of use functions. Currently, the responsibility for registration of chemicals sits at the Commonwealth level. Control of use of chemicals sits with the states. This document will canvass whether or not the Commonwealth should control the whole system, or it should continue with the current arrangement, but with some sort of harmonised arrangement across the states. There'll be access to chemical issues canvassed. The big one there, of course, is minor use. There's also the issue of training and licensing of chemical users. Another big one. They're all big. There's use control systems, that's monitoring, auditing, record keeping. There's the management of risk that I talked about earlier. How do we do that better? Big issue. And then all encapsulated in one line is the efficiency and effectiveness of the chemical registration and review. There's a lot in that as well. COAG Single National Framework. Look, the Primary Industries Ministerial Council's got a big role in this. Really the next steps are following the conclusion of the consultation period, which we hope will begin and end soon. We will then be putting the outcomes of that consultation process to the Ministerial Council, and the Ministerial Council will set policy directions for that reform to be considered by COAG. Fundamentally, the Ministerial Council's got to deliver to COAG three things: a regulatory model, an intergovernmental agreement, and a funding model. And by a regulatory model, I mean what is the regulatory model for the entire system of regulation of ag and vet chemicals. I've had a go at putting a timing up there. This is not an official time, but I guess I would consider this to be relatively realistic. But timing is uncertain because we're dealing with 8 state and territory jurisdictions and a Commonwealth Parliament as well. So we think we can have these reforms in place from about mid-2013. The better regulation of chemicals reform agenda. The government, the Minister, put out a policy discussion paper on 19th of November and this closed on the 4th of February. The policy discussion paper sought stakeholder views on key areas of reform for the assessment and registration of chemicals. Fundamentally, these reforms are aimed at improving the assessment and registration processes, including in relation to the review of chemicals. Under that reform agenda, who will benefit? I guess there's not a lot new in this one. We're thinking, though, that chemical manufacturers will benefit significantly through faster and more predictable assessment and registration processes. Chemical users will benefit through faster access to a wider range of new and innovative chemicals, including in relation to minor use crops. And we think the community will benefit through more transparent and systematic processes and standards for registration and review. So I picked up on all those issues back earlier in the presentation. We've received 88 submissions. As I said, the consultation closed on the 4th of February. I've got to say the 85 of those submissions are on the DAFF website, so people can read them for themselves. But sort of in very broad terms, we can conclude that we've got very broad support from industry and community groups for significant reform. We seem to have general agreement, and this, bearing in mind this is a generalisation, general agreement across stakeholders for improving transparency, aligning risk with regulatory effort and promoting innovation within the sector. There were a number of clear differences around chemical re-registration, the advisory structures for the APVMA and the proposal for an accelerated assessment pathway. I guess this is the bit that interests a lot of people. We're looking to develop legislation by mid-2011, that's, I should say, mid this year, and putting that legislation out as an exposure draft for around 3 months for comment by stakeholders and including our state partners in the National Registration Scheme. We hope to introduce that, and this is all, of course, subject to Parliament, introduce that legislation in late 2011, late this year, and we hope to get passage of that legislation in early 2012. Again, all subject to Parliament. There are a number of operational changes, though, that don't require legislation, and we'll be implementing those earlier, and the government's made money available for that. That's one of those, is a substantial upgrade to the IT infrastructure for the APVMA, and we'll be moving forward with the risk framework. Just on the risk framework, we anticipate a level of public consultation there as well, because that's not just a simple document. That's intended to be a serious exercise that outlines the risks that we're trying to manage and the process for managing them, including the standards and all that. So there will be a lot of stakeholders interested in that risk framework. Okay, concluding remarks. This is a really large and complex reform agenda that we're embarking on, and it's not just government doing this, it's stakeholders that are engaged in this, and we do appreciate the time of stakeholders in putting a lot of serious effort into assisting us with this reform. We can't do it without the stakeholders. And reasons for that really are because this reform is both technically and politically very difficult. Chemicals is just not a simple area. Gets on to the next message. We really do need to get this right. It's important. It's real world stuff. I mean, this makes a difference to the way chemical companies operate, and it makes a difference to how users of chemicals are able to operate their farm businesses and indeed other users such as pesticide applicators for termites, and then everyone's got a can of Peebo in their own home. But we would say reform is overdue, and stakeholders are keen to see results. So I mean, we've got a real tension there. I think there's been a period where not much has happened. Well, at least that's my sense. And I think there's a bit of impatience on the part of stakeholders, and indeed government for that matter. So we need to get moving, but we need to get it right. Federal government has provided resources to do this reform in recognition that this is a major task, and in recognition of the fact that we need to do it as quickly as we can. And in recognition of the fact that we need to get it right, of course. We believe that the reform will be significant and will deliver real benefits to industry and the community. And the COAG reform will further strengthen and lock in these reform outcomes. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to engaging with you over time on this very significant reform agenda. Thank you.